Hello guys, this is Nick from ForexForNoobs.com and welcome to Forex Education Friday. In today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you a simple 3-step process to help you overcome fear of uncertainty. First, let's look at what fear of uncertainty is and why so many traders are crippled by it. So let me set the stage. You see a trade set up, it looks perfect, it looks like it's going to be an easy trade. And you sit there waiting for your moment to strike. The trade hasn't triggered yet, but you watch it like a hawk, waiting for that trigger point to be reached. But then you start thinking, is this really a good setup? There's news coming out in about an hour or so. Could that screw up this trade? The trend looks kind of weak. The 4-hour chart looks good, but the weekly chart is in a downtrend. Do I really want to trade counter trend? Then bam, the trade triggers, but by this point you've lost all confidence in your trade. You've talked yourself out of it. With some new traders, the story takes a bit of a different path. They actually enter the trade, but then they start questioning the trade after they're in it. Then they make stupid decisions and exit the trade early at 10 pips or sometimes even with a bit of a loss, only to have the trade turn around and reach their original target. We've all been there. I was there for over a year. I cannot tell you how many trades I missed out on or screwed up because I had fear of uncertainty. But why? Why do so many traders suffer with fear of uncertainty? Well, humans as a species fear uncertainty. It's a defense mechanism and it has actually served us pretty well throughout our history. But these days with certain careers, and trading is one of those careers, fearing uncertainty is not a help, it's a hindrance. Not entering a trade because you're afraid of the outcome is the easiest way not to make profit in Forex. Now please do not confuse fear of uncertainty with caution. Caution is healthy in trading. Thorough analysis and questioning of a potential setup allows you to eliminate many bad trades. But there is a very fine line between staying out of a questionable trade because you're a cautious trader and staying out of almost all trades because you're paralyzed by uncertainty. When you learn to manage fear of uncertainty, you learn the ability to use caution when viewing setups. So let me explain this. Fear of uncertainty stems from one little question that all traders ask themselves when they see a trade setup. Some traders don't even ask this question consciously, they ask it subconsciously, and I guarantee you've asked it on every single trade you've ever entered. That question is, will this trade work out? Will this trade work out? If you know how to manage fear of uncertainty, you'll be able to assess the trade setup with a clear, logical and unbiased point of view. And you will then be able to judge the setup based solely on its own merits and take it if you think it's a viable trade. But if you fear uncertainty, you start looking for reasons not to take the trade. Your mind goes through all the possible outcomes but gives more weight to the negative ones. And by the end of it, you build up so much fear that you do not actually pull the trigger. Like I said, I've been in this situation. I know exactly what it's like. I fought fear of uncertainty and I won. It wasn't easy, but let's face it, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. And you know what? I'll be honest, sometimes that old feeling, it creeps back up. I still sometimes fear uncertainty, but I've learnt to control it, to manage it. So fear of uncertainty is so deeply ingrained in the human psyche that there is no way to totally abolish it, but you can manage it. So let me show you the simple 3-step process by which I manage fear of uncertainty and by which I was able to conquer it. So before we get to step 1, if you like this lesson, if you find it useful, I would really appreciate it if you could please take a few seconds to click the like button below and the subscribe button above. I've timed this, it takes less than 5 seconds to do, and it really helps me out a lot. Also, it will not take you away from this video. You can go right on watching it after you click those buttons. In fact, I'm going to give you 5 seconds of silence so you can go ahead and click those buttons. Okay, if you click those buttons, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So let's look at step 1. Develop a full trading and money management plan. Now you've heard this from me before. I talk about it all the time because it's pretty damn important. You need to develop a trading plan. You need to develop a money management plan. But why? A trading plan does a few very important things that help manage uncertainty. Number 1, it lists your goals and the path you need to follow to reach those goals. So it's a way to combat uncertainty with clarity. If you know where you are headed and how you plan to get there, it's one less thing you're uncertain of, so it's one less thing to be fearful of. Number 2, it details your trading strategy, so you know exactly what types of trades you need to enter, how to enter them, when to enter them, and when not to enter them. So again, we're combating uncertainty with clarity. If you clearly know what setups you should and shouldn't trade, then there is much less to be uncertain about. That's pretty logical, right? A trading plan, a proper trading plan, helps point you in the right direction. It gives you a clear path. It gives you clarity. And if uncertainty is fog, clarity is your fog light. A money management plan is important because it tells you how much you stand to gain or lose on a trade per trade basis. If done right, it should also tell you how many trades you can afford to lose before you should start worrying. Again, this is combating uncertainty with clarity. If you know going into a trade exactly how much you stand to lose and gain, it's one less unknown and it helps combat fear. Fear of uncertainty is essentially fear of the unknown, and good money management gives you less unknowns. So what this all boils down to is that you need a good trading plan and a good money management plan because it provides clarity, and clarity is the enemy of uncertainty. Now, in my last video, I mentioned my free video course in which I show you how to put together a proper trading and money management plan. And since it applies here too, if you haven't signed up yet, there's a link below. Check it out, completely free, no strings attached. It's just a course that helps you put together a trading plan and a money management plan. And it has a few other things like trading journals and that kind of stuff. Okay, let's look at step 2. So step 2, focus on 1 or 2 pairs. Now this one is simple, I won't spend much time on it. When you start trading, you should focus only on 1 or 2 pairs. This is because each Forex pair moves in its own way. It has its own breathing pattern, if you will. And if you trade that pair for a while, you will learn that pattern, and the moves will become a lot easier to predict. Obviously, if you know how a pair is likely going to move, there is much less uncertainty when trading. But that's not the only reason you should focus on 1 or 2 pairs. The other reason is that too much input is a major cause of uncertainty. When you have too much information floating around in your head, it becomes hard to think clearly and uncertainty kicks in. So imagine you're driving a car with 3 passengers and you arrive at an intersection. One passenger tells you to turn left, the other one tells you to turn right, and the third tells you to go straight ahead. You hesitate and then they start shouting at you. How easily would uncertainty kick in this situation? Well, if you cut down on the amount of people in the car to 2 or even better to 1, you would be much more certain about your direction. Now the same applies to Forex. Less information and more focus leads to less uncertainty. There is a term for too much information. It's called information overload. And if you cut down on the amount of information you study daily, you will reduce your confusion, your stress, and in turn, your uncertainty. Okay, so step 3, just do it. Now, you may be a little disappointed because if you could just do it, you wouldn't be watching this video. Well, hang with me for a few seconds and I'll explain. When you read articles about uncertainty, most people tell you to just do it, but it's kind of useless advice because like I said, if you could just do it, if you could pull the trigger, you wouldn't be reading the article, you wouldn't be watching this video. Luckily though, for us Forex traders, there is an easy way to pull the trigger without actually being there. So, step 3, just do it. To do that, you just need to step away from the trade. What do I mean? Well, when I was fighting fear of uncertainty, the very first step I took was a backwards one. Think about when fear really kicks in. When does your mind really start racing? It's at the moment when you need to pull the trigger. The best way to fight this is to set up limit orders and stop orders to automatically enter you into a trade and possibly automatically close you out. Or instead, an alarm 10 pips before your target and 10 pips before your entry. So after you get into a trade, you set alarms, and that way you're not actually needing to watch the trade and watching it tick by pip, which is an easy way to become uncertain when the trade starts moving a little bit against you. But I do recommend that you have a proper stop loss in place in case you do not hear the alarm. Anyway, the point is that taking yourself away from that moment in which you need to pull the trigger will help you a lot. I did this, and as time went by, I saw my trades working out and I gained more and more confidence. Eventually, I knew my strategy worked, so each trade became less of an unknown. So if you fear uncertainty, your first step forwards should be a step backwards, away from your chart. If when you spot a trade, you set up an automatic entry order, and then you set up an order that says, if this trade is entered, exit here or stop me out here, you can avoid fear of uncertainty because you set up those orders as soon as you see the trade and you just walk away from your computer and you don't look at your charts until a few hours later when hopefully that trade has been won. And as long as you have a good strategy and your strategy actually works, then after a while you're going to start seeing that you're winning most of your trades. And that fear of uncertainty is going to start lifting away because you see that you have a profitable strategy. So like I said, if you fear uncertainty, your first step forwards should be a backwards one. Okay, so let's sum this all up. This is the 3-step process. Step 1, develop a full trading and money management plan. Step 2, focus on 1 or 2 pairs. Step 3, just do it. Automatic entries, automatic exits. Now, one thing about step 3, if you do step 1 and 2, you might not need to do step 3. And step 3, while it can be extremely helpful, a lot of trading strategies, my one in particular, it's a lot better if you're there to watch your trade. You don't have to watch it the whole way, but when your trade gets next to its target or next to its stop loss, it's a good thing to be there watching it to make sure you actually want to exit or you actually want to stop the trade out. So step 3, while it can be useful, it's not for everyone. Some trades require management while you're in them. But if you do step 1 and step 2, it should be enough to get you over fear of uncertainty. If you find that it's not, go ahead and do step 3. But don't take it to an absolute extreme because automated trading, completely automated trading, in my opinion, does not work in the long run. Thank you for watching. See you around the site.